Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Willow, the list goes on and on. What is left of Lucasfilm that Kathleen Kennedy has not yet destroyed? Yet, folks, we are looking at something that is far larger. Perhaps the track that Kathleen Kennedy first took when she decided to jettison the plans of George Lucas and destroy Luke Skywalker, perhaps that has led to the downfall of the industry as we face a writer's strike, which could cut content down to a very slow drip, at the same time that movies like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny leave the industry destitute. And welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. What a joy it is to share with you our best efforts to explain entertainment, and in doing so, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. Why do we do it? Well, folks, entertainment matters. It is what you dream about when you are at work. It's what you plan to go do. You think about your vacations. You think about the shows and movies that you want to go watch, and you share those with your friends, with your family. In fact, some of my fondest memories have to do with going places and seeing things with the people I love. I remember one time going to the movie theaters, and I gathered up many of the older people in my family who have since passed away, and we all went to go see the movie Up. I took them because I thought that beginning of the movie was so poignant after I saw it, that I believed they would enjoy it as well, and enjoy it they did. We have enjoyed much when it comes to Disney and what they have produced in the past, but unfortunately they have taken a path that is no longer successful, and that path was largely carved out by one Kathleen Kennedy. Well, this has now metastasized into something that is actually harming the industry at large. And not only that, but with the writer's strike looming, we could be facing a time when the industry is weaker than ever before, and yet going into a situation where there is no content to lift up. And so, folks, Kathleen Kennedy has done far more harm to entertainment at large than just the damage she has done to Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and more. However, I would argue that perhaps it goes beyond that. Perhaps, what we are seeing within entertainment is just one more example of what happens when you fail to tell the truth. For many years now, we have seen an entire industry pop up around entertainment. We're talking about the access media, and they have pretended that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm have been producing content that fans want. They have pretended that the content that fans despised was actually just the outcry of a very, very small an abrasive minority of folks. That was not true. It hasn't been true. And that has led to a situation now where the Disney company is spinning trying to figure out how to fix this. But it's going to be difficult. We talked about all of this on the Pro Show Thursday. Of course, that is every Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Gather with us now and let's enjoy the conversation that we had with a huge panel of experts, and we'll see what you think at the end. We have broken the reciprocal relationship that entertainment companies are supposed to have with the audience. For far too long now, we have been told that you will take our product and you will like it. And if you don't like it, then we're going to call you all kinds of horrible names. We're not going to give you what you want. It's like going to a restaurant and receiving an item on the menu that you did not order. And then when you protest and say, I would like what I ordered instead, they mock you for it. That is where we have been for the past many years, perhaps since 2016. But we were all held sort of at hostage because we had to see how the Skywalker saga would end. After all, we'd been invested in this thing since 1977. We had to see how our favorite heroes would wind up with Thanos. And so we went and saw stuff like Captain Marvel, even though we really didn't want to. And that buoyed what they were doing with our favorite characters. The mantle strategy, the idea of turning our heroes' happy endings into chaos, and then placing our heroes in a position where they were no longer who we once held them to be. That reciprocal behavior works all throughout our lives. When you go to the store and you order something, you expect to get high quality services. When you are in a relationship with your spouse, you expect that you and your spouse can negotiate one with another. If you can't, then guess what? You get a dragon inside your house that grows and grows and grows until eventually it sweeps away everything that you have in your relationship. You want to keep those things small and manageable by dealing with it. You want to deal with the conflict that exists between you. But for far too long, studios like Lucasfilm have decided they don't have to deal with the conflict. They don't have to manage the expectations of their audience. They can simply give us whatever they desire. They can put their own agendas into our entertainment. And if we don't like it, it doesn't matter because we are rubes and we are small and we have no voice in this matter. Now we find out that was never true. And as we look at what happened with The Sound of Freedom, defeating Indiana Jones not only in the total, but in a comparison of theater to theater, it decimated Indy. That is impressive, but it's also something that even just a few years ago was completely outside of imagination. How did this happen? It happens when companies like Disney get so big that they forget that ultimately, every single time someone buys a ticket, it's a transaction. Every single time someone goes into a theater, there's an expectation. And we don't want to have our expectations subverted unless it is for a fantastic reason where they exceed our expectations. It's time for the subversion to end. It is time for the postmodern, post-moral storytelling to cease. And I think that the Kathleen Kennedy era is coming to a close, whether or not she is at Lucasfilm any longer. Folks, if you think that Kathleen Kennedy leaving Lucasfilm will be the impact that changes the industry, I say no. You are the impact that changes the industry. You do it with your wallets. You do it with your dollars. That is your vote. That is your power. And when you go and you watch things like The Sound of Freedom, or soon to come, Tom Cruise returning with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, when you go and you vote in the positive for those, and you avoid Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, well, there's no better message that can be sent, and there's no greater humiliation for people like Kathleen Kennedy who have destroyed our heroes, but who have been unable to conquer the marketplace. And that is what they most so desire for their legacy. I hand it out over to the panel to discuss, is the Kathleen Kennedy era actually over? We lost Hughes. Let's bring him back in. But we'll discuss, and we'll just go around. We'll start with Mike. Mike, you were very passionate earlier today about the news that we broke. Marion having been jettisoned from the original script by Spielberg. James Mangold, when he took it over, along with Kathleen Kennedy, dropped Marion and the happy ending that Indy had, and instead put Fleabag in the movie up. And that was the new journey that we went on. Mike, is this the end of the era, and is it because of simple economics?
Well, there's no doubt that economics is like gravity. At some point, a reckoning becomes due. Economics is like any other force of nature. There's only so much fighting against economics that you can do. And while you were talking, I was listening to you enthralled, and I was updating the box office numbers that just got released about an hour ago, or a couple hours ago for yesterday. And while yesterday, well, the point is that Indiana Jones didn't win on the 4th of July. They did win yesterday, Wednesday, but they didn't win per theater. Sound of Freedom still brought in $1,537 per theater with 2,600 theaters. And Indiana Jones, which had double that, did a per theater average of 1,204. So even though Indiana Jones managed to bring in about, $500,000 more dollars, they had twice the number of theaters in order to be able to do that. And this little independent film, Sound of Freedom, was still able to beat the per theater average. That means on average, more people were in more seats in more showings, even though there were half as many theaters. And I think that is astounding. That is astounding that they're so close. Now, is this the end of the Kathleen Kennedy era? I don't know. I mean, somebody's head has got to roll. Typically, on a film situation like this, normally what would happen is there would be some meetings, and there's a low-level, what I'll call a low-level shootout between marketing and creative staff, the directors, the writers, and then maybe the marketing. But something else is happening. that's different. I have a very good friend that I've known since 2005. I've said it a couple of places this week. I'll repeat it again tonight. And there's heat in Burbank between Lucasfilm and in Burbank. And the kind of heat there is the kind of heat that that low level staff people can't take the fall. Someone's going to take the fall. Will it be KK? I don't know. I mean, I know that she's got a year left on her contract. Will she leave before that contract's out? I don't know. How will the negotiations or renegotiations go next month? I don't know. Does she want to stay? I absolutely think she does want to stay, because over the last 2 or 3 months since Celebration, we've seen this idea, that idea, and she's even done a couple of interviews and podcasts, including her Hollywood Shield, Mr. Marshall.
I hope she does stay.
I'm sorry?
Well, first of all, I got this new single right now that is just rocketing up the charts, and if she leaves, it's done for. Secondly, I could buy a boat.
You could buy a boat. I hope you have your flippy floppies when you do.
I mean, she can help with that endeavor.
On this, our venerable commenters seem to agree with you. First of all, Andrew for $5 says Mexican Iron Man needs to co-author a book with Valiant Renegade titled "The Walt Disney Company: From Mouse House to Flop House."
Then we need to sell it to Netflix.
Dang it, Bob.
Then we need to sell it to Netflix, and yeah, there you go. And then there'll be the nationwide release of Dang It, Bob the movie.
There is another thing that's attached with all of KK's legacy, and then we can take up just the economics for a second. It's the destruction of role models that they have also accomplished within their lifespan, our lifespan. We no longer have these characters that we once took and related ourselves to. It's affected their financial value on an emotional level. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, exactly. All joking aside, who cares at this point? She has literally killed every bit of Lucasfilm that mattered at this point. There's
Except
nothing
coffee
left.
machines, Tom. The coffee machines are still working fine. That's the only thing she has.
Do you know this for a fact? The sources tell you
I
this?
do know this because the people at Starbucks refuse to take her orders because she gets there early and just fills everything.
You're assuming
So,
she's
let
useful
me
in
go
any
to,
capacity.
Let me go to Vash to get his thoughts on this. And we've been doing a little bit of investigative work on the in the background, trying to determine where this thing is going to land in terms of all-time worst flops at the cinema. And let me give you 5 films that this one is chasing. Now, these may place ahead or behind it, but here are just a few, and you tell me how bad this is.
Please.
Depending on how Indy performs, it is now heading for the same category as movies such as Cutthroat Island from 1995, Heaven's Gate from 1980, The 13th Warrior from 1999, Mars Needs Morris 2011, and the only film that seems like there's no way Indy will catch it in terms of being a worse box office failure is The Adventures of Pluto Nash. So Pluto Nash remains unscathed, Vash, but Indy is chasing it hard. I mean, this is a film that needs $1 billion to break even, and it is unlikely, perhaps now, to even reach $400 million. We are going into its last real weekend, because once Mission Impossible comes in, it's going to wipe it out like a tsunami.
Right.
So, Vash, what do you think about where this lands in the terms of worst cinematic flops of all time?
Well, I remember when Mars Needs Moms debuted at the studio, and there were a lot of heads that rolled at that time, and the entire company took on that flop. It affected the parks, it affected multiple divisions because of just how devastating a loss that was. To have this be compared to it seems appropriate given the budget, but it's striking if you were maybe a fan, if you're still a fan of some of these divisions outside of the studio. This is unbelievably concerning, and I think it speaks to, look, Kathleen Kennedy has so much to blame here, and Iger did say, on his first quarterly earnings call back, when he announced his kind of reformation of the company, that accountability was going to be one of those pillars that they were going to seek, that they were going to empower creators, but they were also going to hold them responsible. And if you don't hold Kathleen Kennedy responsible here, all of that accountability talk goes bunk. So I think you have to make a move, or else, nobody in Burbank.
I think it freaks out investors at this point.
Yeah.
If she does, if she stays completely in power,
right,
and she has these next 3 Star Wars films coming, I think it freaks out investors. Now, Vash, let me just give context to what you brought up. Mars Needs Moms. Listen to these numbers, okay?
Yep.
That film, we believe, had a $150 million production budget, only something like $50 million in terms of advertising, putting it at $200 million. It made $40 million. So somewhere approximately of a loss of $160 million.
Right.
You said that heads rolled.
Robert
Indiana
Zemeckis
Jones,
hasn't
The Dial
made a
of
film
Destiny.
with him since.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, The Dial of Destiny could lose $200 to $300 million.
Yeah.
We're talking about double to triple the losses.
Absolutely.
This is nuts.
It's tremendous, and here's the thing, previously when these kind of losses were experienced, you'd have some offsetting that would happen at the parks or something like that. That's not happening. I mean, it wasn't just a slaughter fest for Indiana Jones on the 4th of July. I was getting reports from the parks and looking at the wait times myself. The parks on both coasts, Walt Disney World and Disneyland, were empty on that day, while Universal Studios Hollywood was packed. So that's really
a
really
huge
interesting
point too, Vash. We're going to get there later in the show, but you're exactly right. This is now metastasized across the company.
Right.
And folks, again, if you wonder why, why do they cover Disney all the time? Why don't they cover The Flash? Why don't they cover some of these other studios? Well, we will. When Tom Cruise comes into the cinemas next week, we'll be here to cover that. We talked about The Sound of Freedom today. We're here to call balls and strikes, but Disney has been the biggest kid on the playground. They're in a complete and utter tailspin. This is something that they will be studying in the history of entertainment for decades to come. Hughes? Go ahead, Stephen.
Sorry, I want to ask a quick question. Vash, when you said the creators are held accountable, right?
Right.
Does that include the destroyers? Because technically she's not really a creator, she is a destroyer. So is she being held accountable as in the destroyer category? Is that category for her as well?
Well, if she was imbued with some power, I would assume that would include her, but you do make a good point here.
Yeah, if you put JJ's hair on her, it's pretty much the same person.
One of the best comments that I've heard today on this whole thing is, how do you make a multi-million-dollar franchise? You give Kathleen Kennedy a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and that's pretty accurate for what's going on.
That was a hot wing challenge burn.
Oh my goodness!
All right, so let's take that. Vash, you've taken the show to an all new high. Let's take that, however, to Hughes. Hughes, I'm going to give you a huge question, and we'll see how you answer this. We are facing a writer strike, which is growing. It could include vast numbers of Hollywood soon. It could bring the entire industry to a freeze. And at the same time, we are watching the industry at large buckle because Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk at Disney have dropped the once untouchable Disney, where they no longer are pulling in the kind of numbers they once did. That is hurting everybody. And I'm talking about everybody. And it's such a big thing that we're going to watch now as the media will try to circle the wagons to save the industry, because they would like to be going into the writer strike in a strong position so they can weather the storm. Instead, they are standing out in this blizzard with nothing on. Hughes, has Kathleen Kennedy actually damaged the entertainment industry at large beyond just Lucasfilm, beyond Star Wars and Indy?
Heck yeah, she did. Because of the simple fact of the matter is that, not like Fat Steven said, she's a destroyer. Okay, when she finds herself, destroying the previous regime, as she called it, things of her mind and everything. And then next thing you know, we have where she gets her own story group, where she wants to go ahead and then have them to also interject with the whole virtue signaling, as we've seen with that one truck before, where they were planning together the newest brand or version of Lucasfilm with Star Wars, with dinosaurs, diversity, so on and so forth. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that not only is it affecting the writers, it's also thanks to her, she's affected many actors vis-a-vis I forgot her name, just like that. She played Rey in the whole Disney sequel.
Oh, Rey Skywalker.
Daisy Ridley. You see what I mean? It's so bad. I forgot her name. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that if this writer strike continues and the directors, they got a deal going on and everything, and better than the writers have. But if this continues and everything, we're going to see another turn. We're going to see where thank you, Bob. We're going to see where the audiences are going to win. And my prediction that even if when the strike ends, the audience, the consumers, we're still going to win, because the simple fact of the matter is that they've now see that we're actually in control? What was the whole saying with the and different retailers going, the customer's always right? Well, in this case, they never listen to the customer. Now the customers choose to keep their money to themselves and everything. But the fact of the matter is, yes, she did. I think she's one of the reasons why the writer's strike is getting worse and everything. But
You have to breathe. Take a breath, man. Take a breath.
Listen, it's a passionate day. Kathleen Kennedy has damaged the industry. But no, Hughes, I'm totally on board with what you're saying.
Y'all know, y'all remember what happened to me last time when we talked about Kathleen Kennedy? I started yelling. I'm trying to keep myself calm.
Well, Corbin Dallas sent in a member chat saying that what Lucasfilm needs is more female representation.
Hey,
Yes, they don't have enough.
You got to take it back to Fifth Element with that. We got to say his name right. Corbin Dallas!
Yeah, with the multi-pass.
All right, folks, we hope that you enjoyed that conversation. It is a wrap for us today, but the comments begin right now. Drop a comment down below. Tell us what you think. Is the panel right? Is it wrong? Has Kathleen Kennedy damaged more than just Lucasfilm? More than just Star Wars and Indiana Jones? Has her strategy sent the industry into a spiral? Well, we won't know unless you tell us your thoughts down below. And folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.